there is no real evidence to support the use of any kind of anti-inflammatory drugs for the use of peripheral neuropathy, but there is growing support for the idea of inflammation. We have ourselves also done studies showing that several inflammatory signals within the periphery, but also within the CNS, actually are increased in diabetic patients with CNS and PNS complications. So I think it's definitely for the future it's going to be very interesting to see, and it may very well be that anti-inflammatory drugs may, in fact, on top of other anti-diabetic treatment, may show to be beneficial for the patients. But as of yet, we don't really know.
Short question to Anjali. It's very interesting what you said before. My question is, this technology is used for most of patients or under small cells of control patients or some group of patients now in the United States?
It's a very valid question. Of course, it depends on the technology. I mean, some of our studies were proof of concept, and some of them they are validatory study. For example, the one for smart BATMAT that I showed that just published in Diabetes Care, that was multiple centers study. We have over 10 centers that actually use this technology, and we provide them to patient home. They're using on a daily basis. We measure adherence to wear these, to use this smart BATMAT, and also then we analyze these data blindly. So this was a very, I'm guessing, convincing study to demonstrate that this thermography at home may work and can help maybe to identify earlier sign of the intervention. Some others said that they demonstrate like a smart insole and a smart watch. That was a single arm, so it wasn't randomized controlled trial. So I consider this as a proof of concept study that need to be validated. It's provide very innovative information to us to see that how we can change patient behavior by use of a smartphone and a smartwatch. I know that there is ongoing a study by Professor Bolton in Manchester University that they are using a randomized controlled trial to see that whether the system is effective or not. I'm hoping to see that whether that can provide the necessary evidence that whether those kind of technology that is not necessarily expensive compared to the cost of diabetic foot ulcer that's cost $28,000 to treat them, maybe it can help to prevent reoccurrence of ulcer. So it's very hard to answer your question because I presented multiple studies, but it was a mix. Some of them they were randomized controlled trials, some of them there was with very large sample size, and some of them they were simply a proof of concept study.
Thank you.
Dr. Najjar, I heard there is a diabetic sock with sensors in it. Is that correct?
Yes. So, do you want more explanation with this technology?
Yes.
Okay, so the original idea that we had, it was using a fiber optic. So fiber optic is currently used in many technologies, like airplane. If you look at the airplane, the way that they measure temperature outside the airplane and the pressure and shear is through the fiber optic. Fiber optic now used almost everything for transferring the data. The uniqueness about fiber optic is that there is no any electricity, so it's very safe. So it's based on light. So based on light circulation and change of the wavelengths of the light that we can measure based on the reflection of the light, we can measure the change in the temperature, because if the temperature changes, the wavelengths of the light is changed. We can measure pressure, and we can measure shear. And we can measure also the solder joint angle. So this is a theory that is not novel. It actually showed by many literature. The uniqueness that we have, I'm proud to say that we were pioneer on this concept. We used for the first time in patients with diabetes. The study, of course, originally was done in Doha, Qatar, by a fund received from Qatar National Research Foundation. We demonstrate that using this technology, we can accurately and simultaneously measure all these three parameters without having any crosstalk between them. So that means the change of the temperature doesn't influence the pressure and vice versa. Of course, I should admit that the technology maybe will be far yet to be implemented because the fiber optic is very expensive. Fiber optic and coating sensor currently used for the big project like airplane. And that's why that there is not much centers that can coat the sensor inside the fiber. We have in the United States probably only 2 centers that can coat that one. Despite that, fiber optic is very cheap, but the implementation of sensor is expensive. There are some other investors, like the group in New Zealand, that Siren is not developed them, that they use a smart textile. These textile or fiber, it seems that they are doing pretty good job to measure temperature. So Siren Care uses one of those textile to measure temperature. There is another company in the United States that named Sensoria that they use another textile, again it's form of socks that measure pressure. They use currently with the fitness application, but now actually they are using for patients with diabetes. But it's very impressive, this kind of the flexible sensor and a smart textile that now is entering into the market and can provide a very cheap means or tools to measure those parameters and notify patient and doctors to manage diabetic foot. And I'm sure that next couple of years you will see tons of those products and gadgets coming to the market and may revolutionize the way that we are taking care of the foot.
Would you think they would stimulate the nerves as well?
That's great. This is another study that just been published with Dr. Labner and Dr. Armstrong. It's based on electrical stimulation. I would like also to refer this with my colleague, Dr. Anderson. We find out that actually daily use of electrical stimulation using this smart textile is effective to improve balance, is effective to increase the skin perfusion. And we have, of course, maybe it's not yet conclusive. It was, of course, randomized controlled trial, double-blinded study, but we demonstrated the sign of improvement of the neuropathy. The plantar sensation was significantly improved in the intervention group compared to the control group. And yes, I believe that ultimately these kind of the smart textile, in particular the component of electrical stimulation, may be some solution to manage the problem associated with peripheral neuropathy as well as peripheral arterial disease. But it's too soon to be conclusive, so it's really at the earlier stage.
So, thank you both for bringing us presentation.